What is going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning back into the Zack's YFZ 450 series. So the final parts came in for his quad, and this is all that remains to get installed on this 2006 YFZ 450. To begin, I'm gonna go over kind of some stuff that I did off camera, and I also want to say thank you guys so much for watching and getting back into the swing of things. The continued support in my absence, I do greatly appreciate it. And I've also noticed that about 80% of you who watch my videos are not subscribed, so if you like what I do and you like the stuff that I'm currently doing on the channel, please feel free to tune into the rest of the videos that I'm doing. Subscribe, like the video if you do so, and leaving a comment. I love talking with you guys in the comment section, so just let me know what you guys think. So a couple things I did off camera. Zack came over to the house to finally see his YFZ 450, and can honestly say I was happy to have him over. We tinkered a little bit on his four-wheel, and he was finally able to ride it without having realistically any problems. So let's get into some of the stuff that him and I did. So in the last video, I talked about the little blue wire up here under the beak or the hood of the headlights and stuff like that. There was a little blue wire and the neutral switch wasn't working. So the reason why Zack came over was to drop some parts off that this thing needed. So that little blue wire was for the neutral switch, and if you remember, the neutral switch was missing in the last video. It was replaced by a bolt. So Zack dropped off a brand new neutral switch. You can kind of see it back there, and I ran a new wire all the way along the frame rail in order to get the neutral switch working. So that works just fine now. When Zack was finally able to ride his quad, we definitely did notice some things that were becoming an issue. Number one, the quad was not charging properly. He also brought over some new headlight bulbs, but I'll get into that in a sec. The quad itself was not charging. You'd get one good start or two out of it, and then all of a sudden you'd go to start it and you'd have to wait for it to kind of cool down for it to get one more good start out of it again. All of a sudden it just wouldn't start. You'd hit the button, you could hear the starter, but nothing, it would not turn over. So we had to bump it a few times. So unbeknownst to us, we did indeed find out that the rectifier itself was bad. We installed new headlight bulbs, and shortly after the installation they were working, and then all of a sudden one went out and one went dim. So the regulator or the rectifier was damaged, or it was not working properly, I should say. I borrowed one, or I got one from a buddy who was also building a YFZ 450. His is a 2005. He said I could have his rectifier. He's not going to need it for a little while anyways, so it pays to have some friends. Once the new rectifier was installed, it still unfortunately wasn't taking a charge. So I removed the battery and found this. From the top, you wouldn't think there would be too big an issue. Looking at it from the side, oh, you see that it almost looks like the battery's crushed. I messaged Zack and asked, hey, do you know perhaps when the last time the battery was changed on this thing? I know the previous owner didn't give you really any information about it, and he said no. So I had him go ahead and get a new battery, and that fixed the issue. Now the quad was charging, and it was able to start every single time. Awesome. We still gotta address the headlight bulbs. Just that little package right there. So that's one of those. We'll get those open in a sec. And we've got a brand new battery under the seat. Zack also brought over some brand new Nerf bar nets, so that is all taken care of. He put the new one on this side, and he left the old one on this side, and he's going to save that one right there as a spare for when one or the two rip. So good idea there. And now the bike is running like a top. No issues. I am going to do a few more things than just unbox these and install them, but we'll get into that here in just a sec. Let's get started into opening these packages. So the ones that are open, I still haven't looked at. I had my wife go ahead and verify that what actually came in. So these are the brand new headlight bulbs that we are going to be installing, and they are LED. So these should be bright enough for Zach. I don't know how much night riding he's going to do, but nevertheless, night riding is fun. These are the brand in which he bought, if you are curious and want to order the same bulbs. Right there. Go ahead and do that. And the second and final box, I have not opened this at all, and I already know what as far as what exhaust Zack got, but I have yet to see it. So we are just going to open this real quick, and we're going to get this all unpackaged. Gasket, remember that. Very nicely packaged. And we'll open the silencer first so you guys can get a look-see at this. And right there is a brand new Dasa exhaust. This thing is really sweet. I'm gonna bring this in here for a close-up real quick, but I just want to get the rest of this unpacked. There's the spark arrestor. Don't want to lose any of this. Bolt kit. Instructions. Okay, nice. Alright y'all, look how nice this is. All stainless steel. Welds are beautiful. Just much larger than stock, and even much larger than that Sparks exhaust that's on there. Just beautiful exhaust. Then we get to the silencer. Dasa. I have honestly never heard in person a Dasa exhaust, so this is going to be interesting. Nice billet aluminum tip on it. Now, from what Zach was telling me, the Dasa exhaust is supposed to provide way more performance than factory, but it is quieter. So I have been around a stock YFZ with a stock silencer on it, but I'm curious to see how this Dasa sounds, because of course camera's gonna not be the same as in person, so hopefully you guys will be able to get a decent effect of how the exhaust is. But just here's all your hardware, your gasket. That gasket bolts up to the back along with that flange, so we'll get that installed. Blue Loctite. Probably should use red, but here is the spark arrestor. We'll throw that in if Zach wants to take it out later. That's totally up to him, but I'm just going to throw it in there so I don't lose pieces. Now, before we jump into some of that stuff, there are just a few minor things I want to take care of first. Number one, the headlights. I am going to get a before exhaust video, so don't worry about that. It doesn't have a Sparks on it, I apologize. This has a Pro Circuit TI4 exhaust on it, so we'll definitely get a impression of this exhaust so you guys can hear it. It is in terrible shape, and once we get that off, I'll show you that as well. But I really can't wait to hear what that Dasa sounds like. A couple things I want to do before we go ahead and get that exhaust on. Of course, the headlights, we'll swap out the bulbs real quick, but this ground terminal is kind of boogered. I have a new terminal over here that we are going to be putting on. That's just going to make it nice, and so you don't have to worry about, well, that ground terminal popping off. Another thing I want to do is, I've been reading some forums on these things, and the rectifier has been pretty well known issue for these things. So what I'm going to do is, they recommend taking and making a ground strap that goes from the base of the rectifier, which is that bolt or the bolt on the other side, and running it all the way to the ground terminal so that this charging system can ground properly. Makes sense in my mind, it doesn't hurt to do, and it just provides for another solid ground. So we're going to do that as well. But first, I got to get the plastics off. Of putting things together and then just taking them back apart a million times. So let's get the plastics off. Alright, YFZ is back to being naked. So getting a good look around, I wanted to show you guys before we removed it. This is what's going on with this exhaust. So obviously it's crushed right here, and when I remove this completely, you'll see more of that. But this brake right here all the way around, it's loose. It's not good. No discredit to Pro Circuit or anything, it's just that this exhaust has been on here forever and somebody has used and abused it, so we're going to take care of it. But before we do, I am going to put a dedicated ground to this rectifier. You go right from this post, we're going to follow the harness and go up under the frame, or up under the subframe rather. And then this is what we have to fix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this, peel some of the sheathing back, put some heat shrink way back here, and then I'm going to solder that new end on. And I have to make sure to include this little ground wires, but I will show you guys how to do that. Okay, so getting ready to build that battery terminal, I am going to use solder. So most people, especially on four-wheelers, like to just crimp the heck out of the plug and stuff like that. I build battery terminals at the shop with working on big rigs and stuff, and I like to solder the cables. So in order to do that, you're going to need your little end, you're going to need a torch of some sort, and you're going to need solder. This is just plain Jane roll of thick solder, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to melt the solder into the plug, and then I'm going to take that plug and I'm going to put it on the I'm going to put it on the wires. So a little flame going. So just gonna heat this up, add your solder, it's gonna get nice and hot and start melting it. There, now the solder is melted into there, and just going to continue to heat. And that way I can take it over to the terminal real quick and put it on the wire. Melt the solder and quickly install my wire. Let that cool. And just like that, you have a solid connection. Now water is not going to get in there, It is nice and solid. I am going to let it cool before I bring the heat shrink down, but nothing is going to break that connection. I build, like I said, I build battery cables and re-terminal cables at the shop, and I work on big rigs and stuff like that. You can use this for your own personal vehicles. It's just a different way of doing something that, you know, isn't gonna hurt it at all. So, and you can see I incorporated the big cable, the little ground cable, and I incorporated another wire, and that other wire is coming up, and I'm going to take it and put it right on the stud for the rectifier, and that makes for a nice clean install. That way I'm not stacking things on top of the battery post and creating a mess. Super simple, easy to do. Of course, you can go ahead and buy these tools and these parts and stuff like that, and if you are worried about having to like make battery cables, it's super simple. Go get you a good battery cable, get you some ends, solder them together, no having to worry about crimping, and you can do it on the machine. A crimper, I may have to done this on the bench, and doing that I would have had to take the whole wiring harness off, or at least that main ground cable. I didn't want to do that. All I had to do was bring a torch, bring a set of vice grips over, and some solder, and made that cable no problem. This cable is nice and cool to the touch. I'm going to bring my heat shrink down over that. Dedicated ground. Excellent. Here is the what would be right side headlight. These things are pretty easy to swap out and change. The whole connector just comes right off. And you got, come on baby. There we go. And you can tell this was a brand new bulb, but unfortunately when the rectifier gave way, it immediately burnt these out. So, no good. This little ear right here actually has its own dedicated slot, so you don't want to mess that up. Voila, right there. Now we can put the plug on. And there's 2 headlights done. Alright y'all, the YFZ is back together. I didn't want to waste you guys' time putting the plastics back on, because obviously you saw me take them off. I can put them back on, no problem. So now is the only part we have left, is to put the exhaust on. But we got to get an exhaust clip of this Pro Circuit pipe on here, so let's go ahead and do that. So I was just messing with the idle a little bit just to get it calmed down a little more, but obviously that Pro Circuit pipe is super loud, so it definitely is an old pipe. It needs some work, but we have a new exhaust to throw on, so let's get in the garage and throw this DASA exhaust on. Also, was messing with the headlights and they were on again, but then they just died. So I don't recommend that headlight company. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can order up some factory bulbs for this thing and have that cure the issue, because that's the second set from that company and they immediately burn out. So junk. Here's the takeoff and what is going on, and I gotta say I'm really liking this DASA exhaust more and more that I look at it. Now that's not to say that the Pro Circuit pipe when it was first put on this quad was excellent. You know, it is missing a few pieces, it is very damaged, we'll look at that here in a sec, but just gotta say I'm liking the look of the DASA and I'm liking a few other features. But let's look at the Pro Circuit here real quick. So take in mind, this is an old pipe, or this pipe has been on here for quite some time. So the damage to this, you can see how it's completely just dented up from wheelies and stuff like that. Just this thing has been brought through the ringer. It's obviously missing the tip, could use a repack, but most importantly, this thing is just, I'm pretty sure I could snap that crack all the way around if I wanted to. It is just separating, and it's cracked all the way from there up to here, and it's cracked right there. The welds are nice. I mean, the welds are still holding up. You get a dent right here. The welds right here are nice, and this expands right here, just before it gets to the silencer. It's missing a clamp right here, which has probably caused more of that cracking. Well, let's take this apart. There's supposed to be a clamp right here, and I know that because it is split back here, so that allows for it to tighten up. The head pipe is significantly smaller than the head pipe on the DASA. This is a much not thicker, but it is a very nice transition, maybe just a little pinch point right there, but nothing serious, and then it expands very nicely. The welds are really nice on this. There's no weld on the Pro Circuit pipe. However, what I am noticing, this is supposed to take the guard. Guard is missing, and somebody has tried to repair this pipe once upon a time. That is all booger welds. That is nothing but chicken shit, and it's leaking. This pipe is done. I wish I could hear what it's actually supposed to sound like, but this pipe is whooped. So let's get this out of the way real quick. Onto the DASA. So nice and clear. Nice bends, super nice welds, and it expands way before it actually gets to the silencer. You'll have this gasket that goes from the, I'm going to call this the up pipe, into the silencer, and then you have the spark arrestor. Now we are going to put this spark arrestor on. However, we're going to do a before and after spark arrestor, so I'm going to leave it out for the first start and then install it for the second start. The kit does come with these bolts. I'm going to put Loctite on these so this doesn't wind up backing out, and this is not, or I'm sorry, and this does not take a clamp. So this transition between the up pipe and the head pipe is very uniform. It's nice and tight. It doesn't wiggle around. It does not take a clamp. I imagine if it did take a clamp, we would have got it in the kit. However, here we are. Let's go ahead and just get this exhaust put on. I'm excited to see how this sounds. Get the head pipe installed. So now we're going to install our mid pipe. I just got done reading through the directions, and it's smart if you have directions with anything that you're not familiar with. Go ahead and give them a read. So this is your mid pipe, and then you have your silencer that goes up to your head pipe. DASA recommends that you leave these bolts back here loose, as well as the bolts back at the head pipe. Do not forget the little gasket that goes in between the mid pipe and the head pipe, and the silencer. And also, they want you to add a little bit of anti-seize between the mid pipe and the head pipe. I don't have any with me, but we can put some of that later on down the road. Leave your head pipe bolts loose and just go ahead and start fitting this into place. We're going to leave these bolts loose as well until we get the relationship from the silencer and the head pipe all squared away, and then we can tighten everything down. Yo, that exhaust sounds a lot better. So DASA does recommend rejetting, and obviously I'm going to redo that. The actual jet sizes that they recommend are on that sheet that they provide in the box, but oh my god, look at this thing, man. That thing sounds way better. A little bit of smoke wearing off the new. Oh my goodness, how nice. Here, let's actually go in and see what jets they recommend. Okay, number 10, the carburetor will need to be rejetted. DASA Racing recommends a 185 main jet, a 45 pilot jet, stock needle in the mid clip, and 2.5 turns out on the fuel screw. A jet kit can be purchased at Dawson Racing Exhaust Systems. Jets may need to be adjusted depending on the temperature, humidity, altitude, etc. There you have it, guys. That is Zack's 2006 YFZ 450 completely done. Aside from the headlight bulbs, I'll pick those up or I'll send Zack a message. But other than that, this thing is finally done. I can't wait to get this out on the trails with Zack and see him just open it up and be just ecstatic with the way that it turned out. This thing was a project, don't get me wrong. He paid $3,500 for it up front, and with the parts, I'm not 100% sure as to how much he paid, but I can say that this was a project. It had stripped out bolt holes, the cases, one of the ears being broke off of it, and I truly thank you guys for tuning into this video series. I can honestly say I had an absolute blast working on this thing, and even more so riding this thing. I have plenty of spots in the lawn that just this thing hooks, this thing grabs really hard, and I absolutely love it. Definitely looking like a 450 quad in the near future for me, for sure. I have some ideas I'm going to throw around to you guys, but if you like this video, if you like this content, if you like what I'm doing as far as the sport quad content goes, please let me know in the comments below. Hit the like button and feel free to subscribe. It's free and it definitely helps me out quite a bit. Getting back into YouTubing, I've definitely taken on more quads, so thank you guys so much for the watching. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I'm going to get this thing all buttoned up and squared away for Zack for the final little bit of it. I'm going to do that off camera, but we will have some riding videos here in the near future. Speaking of riding videos in the future, now that Zack's quad is all done, I've got a whole bunch of boxes here for the Warriors, so we're going to get this all squared away here in the next video. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Tune into the next video. This one's got some things going on with it, and we need to make it right where it needs to be. So we'll be going out to Ride Royal Blue with the Warrior and the YFZ shortly after getting this thing fixed. But thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.